Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Today I wanted to talk about why it's so important to follow your bliss when it comes to your life, your relationships in general. And this concept of following your bliss came up in my life when I realized that I found myself many times in relationships where people would do something for me and I would feel that there was something off about that. I would feel that it was not enough. Like, for example, I had a relationship with a man where he would be doing the chores, right? He did the chores, and I should be happy, right? Because he was doing that for me. And he would complain that it was never enough, that there was always something, that I would be always complaining that there was something missing. And at some point, I would blame myself for that, but then I would still go back and I would still feel that there was something missing and I just couldn't pinpoint it. And at some point, I realized that what was missing was that he wasn't doing it out of his heart. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to. But he was doing it because he felt obliged to do that. So it wasn't in sync with me. It had nothing to do with me. It was with what he felt the rules and regulations were. And so his heart wasn't in it. And the feminine part in me felt that. It felt that it wasn't aligned with me, but it was something, an action that was aligned with something else, right? And so it was like we were like two people living in two parallel realities, and we never these realities never coincided. And then I realized in other moments where I remember I was sitting with a friend of mine, and I didn't want to be with her in that moment. I didn't want to listen to her. I just wanted to go away because I wanted, like, my heart wanted to do something else. Or maybe that topic was not something I wanted to engage in. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember feeling that my whole body wanted to change, to shift, to go away, or yeah, again, to course correct what was happening in that moment, the interaction that was happening in that moment. But instead of doing that, I went into this, I have to be here. I have to force myself. Otherwise I'll not be seen as good. I'll not be seen as nice. It's impolite to say, why don't we change this, or why I want to go away, or whatever. So I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it out of this because I thought this is the way I should be, right? And so my heart wasn't in there. And so I was sitting, enduring that conversation, that interaction. And then, of course, I would be resentful, right? I'd resent that because you can't do that. You can't force yourself. You can't, because you're repressing your energy. You can't repress your energy without it having some consequences in the future, right? And we do that very naturally, and then for a month we don't want to see that person anymore because it took so much energy to be with that person. And the reason why is that instead of being our true selves in that moment and listening to what our energy is telling us, what our nature is telling us, we actually repress it, silence it, and we go along these outer rules, injunctions, and then we're actually going against ourselves. And then not only that, because I remember in that moment when I was with her, I realized that the fact that I was stifling my need and enduring that interaction, that would bite me in the butt in the future. I knew that. And yes, it did, because I suddenly started becoming paranoid. I was like, are people really, do they really want to be with me, or are they actually forcing themselves to be with me? Do they want this interaction? When people call me or want to talk to me, I'm never sure whether they want to do that because out of their, the just because they want to be with me, or is it because they have to, or is it because there is this fear if they don't do it, they'll be seen as bad. If they don't do it, they will be alone. If they don't do it, they'll regret it. And it's like, in the end, you start questioning yourself, what is a genuine relationship? I mean, how can I actually feel safe with the other because I'm not being myself, I'm not being there for the other? And I start questioning whether the other actually wants to be with me. And you can feel it, like just like it was with the relationship with this man. I also saw myself doing things I didn't want to do because I thought that's the way it is. Because I really thought that, I came here as me, but I couldn't live my life as me. I mean, I had to completely change myself. I mean, which is ridiculous. You come here as you, and then throughout your life, you have to change yourself completely and correct yourself in every moment, right? But you can't be you. So I don't know. I mean, this is something that is just, it's completely baffling to me. But so going back to following your bliss, why is it so important if you want to create a genuine conscious relationships? Following, first of all, let me explain what it is, what it really means. And then I'll explain why it's so important, or you'll understand why it's so important when it comes to having good relationships or profound relationships. Because following your bliss means that you're actually following what animates you the most in the moment. It's following that feeling of aliveness. Let's say that you have 5 options, like you can, take a shower, do this, do that, whatever it is. Start looking at which one makes you more alive and take that one. The more you do that, the more you'll align with your energy. That's why there is that feeling of aliveness, because you're completely aligned with yourself. When you do something out of shoulds and shouldn'ts, injunctions, fears, right, regrets and all that, what you're doing is that you're not listening to yourself, you're not trusting yourself. You are coming from this energy of, I'll shove myself away, I'll shove my energy away, I'll repress it, and I need to force myself into becoming this and that way. And so there is this energy of, number one, repression, which does not feel good in the moment, and you'll know it. It's going to feel very constricting. You will not feel that feeling of aliveness and freedom that comes, that softness, but it's very constricting. It's very rigid, because you have to be, you have to be this way, right? So there's a rigidity around it. And because you can't trust yourself, because if you're saying should and shouldn't, you're not trusting yourself, right? Because you don't trust yourself, it's almost like you need to, it's not almost, you're forcing yourself into doing something. And it does not feel good. The opposite of it is that feeling of openness, aliveness, that freedom, because your energy is flowing freely towards what it wants. You don't need to force yourself into doing that. There's no shoulds and shouldn'ts. You don't even need to make a list of any of your chores or whatever. It will naturally take you there. There's a flow to it. The decisions that you make from that state is a decision that is based on you. You're sitting, you're dwelling in yourself, and from there you make a decision. You're dwelling, it's like you're being in yourself, and you feel very solid there, because it's the only place where you can be. I mean, you can't dwell anywhere else. You can only dwell in yourself, right? And now you're feeling okay being there, and from there you make decisions. So they're going to be very genuine decisions based on your nature, on your energy, on who you really are. And that's what is called vulnerability, actually. And there's a softness in it. And this is a process, because we haven't learned to trust ourselves. We haven't learned to be with ourselves. It's always like, we always have these 100 rules and regulations we have to base ourselves on to make life good, because we can't base ourselves on ourselves. I mean, it just seems to be normal nowadays. And so when you come from that place of aliveness, you're very clear with yourself and with other people. And you become very safe for yourself and for other people, because you won't go against yourself. And because you're clear with others, they also know where they are at with you. And so that relationship becomes safe. I'm not going to sit with you if I don't want to be there, because it's humiliating even for you. I mean, why do we do that? It means also that I don't trust you to be there for me. And I need to work to earn, your presence there. It becomes very safe, because suddenly you become very clear about what you want, what you can give, what you can't give. You become clear about your what you're good at, what you're not good at. And you also express it and show it to the other, because you know it in yourself. You were standing by yourself, and you have no problem showing it to others. And so automatically they know also where they're standing at, right? And that makes it very safe. And also there is this thing where nowadays when we meet people, it's almost like we need to be this perfect person, and we have to have it all together. We have to go to the psychologist and get our shit all together and all that, and then we can meet people, and then we can have relationships. That is messed up, because there's so much mess in me, right? I need you to be there also with my mess. And I need to be able to be with you with your mess. I mean, if we can't do that with each other, then what is that? Some political meeting we're having once a year? Well, I mean, it's not making any sense nowadays, where we can't be ourselves with the other. We mask up, and then we go to the psychologist or to people like me. And we open up to those people and we have to pay them, but then we can't be ourselves with the other. Like, let's say I have, and let me give you a very concrete example. Let's say I have a codependent problem. I have an issue with that. It's not about me coming to you and saying, let me, figure it out, heal it, and then come to you. But it's more about, can you be with me with this issue? Can you help me out? Can you support me? Let's sit down. Let's see how you can support me, if you want to support me, of course. And me, I will do the inner healing that I need to do, but I also need other people to be there with me, right? And it's with everything, because there are so many things we need to heal with others. We can't do it separately. And we think and most of the time I see that most of us want to heal everything, become perfect, and then go into a relationship. That is not the way it works. And it wouldn't feel fine, because imagine that you become this perfect being and then you connect with that other person. And you're like, okay, so they're there because I'm perfect, right? They're there once I perfected myself. Once I cut off these parts and then, I don't know, stretched these others. But they weren't there with me when I was messed up, when I was confused, when this and that happened. So it will never feel good if you do that. And it will never happen, actually. So the whole going back to follow your bliss is really follow your energy, follow your animation, follow what makes you buzz, what makes you come alive. And when you start following, and these are, you'll have these breadcrumbs that you will follow. And as you follow them with other people, with yourself, that will animate the relationship. It will animate you from the inside, but it will animate the relationship. It will also help you identify the type of people you want to be with. Because if you come from shoulds and shouldn'ts, you will be with people who are also shoulds and shouldn'ts. And so you're not going to have that close, deep relationship. It's not going to be possible. But if you open up, because it will open you up, this following your bliss thing will open you up. It will also open you up to people with whom you are compatible, where you have compatible needs, you have a compatible path, or whatever it is, because you're showing up as you are. So I hope this is clear. Okay, if you have any comments, any questions, let me know down below.